Hello and welcome to Schneider Electric presents Inventing the New Electric World, partnered by ET Now. As industries globally begin to scale up operations in the eye of a pandemic, is our existing energy infrastructure up to the task? Or is perhaps now the most opportune time to migrate to a decentralized, decarbonized, deeply digitized, all-electric ecosystem? It's a complex question and it deserves to be approached from a 360-degree perspective. And fortunately, I'm joined by a panel of subject matter experts to help me do just that. We have with us Executive Vice President Energy Management at Schneider Electric, Philip Delorme. CEO Schneider Electric India and Zone President India, Anil Chaudhary. Managing Director and CEO NetMagic, Sharad Sanghi. And Senior Divisional Manager of Projects at ITC, Tapan Mazumdar. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. And Philip, I'd love to kick off the conversation with you. For sake of our viewers, for their benefit, what does the term new electric world constitute?
Well, it's very simple. You know, we live in a world that pre-COVID was already craving for a better trajectory, a very different trajectory, and that actually post-COVID has been accelerating further towards sustainability, which is this carbon goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. Now, before COVID, many people were saying that goal is impossible. And COVID did a lot of harm to the society, but it proved one thing that's very important is that mankind can decrease its global footprint. We've not finished 2020, but we believe, and specialists believe, that the energy consumption over 2020 will decrease by 6%, and the carbon emission will decrease by 8%. We have never done that before. We need to use human intelligence to drive systemically the reduction of carbon emissions so that we get to the finish line of 2050 with a carbon neutral balance. And we at Schneider Electric believe that actually solutions do exist today, not tomorrow, today. And it's a matter of human intelligence and mobilization to drive this change. We believe this change will rely on two major transformations. One, moving the energy world to more electricity, because we believe electricity is the most efficient energy, drives a greener future. On the generation side, I'll come back to that, to make energy more renewable, more green, and on the consumption side to make sure that we replace anything that would use carbon, oil, gas, and so on with electricity because it's a more efficient energy. And the second pillar and the second transformation is around digital transformation because digital brings efficiency. And I think we've all realized post-COVID that there's been a massive adoption of digital technology much beyond actually what we thought would be possible. And by doing that, we realize that we can be more efficient, automate things that were not automated before, use AI, artificial intelligence to drive better output out of machines. So now if we go one level down and try to be even more concrete for people watching us, let's take the example of buildings. Globally in the world, buildings represent 40% of the carbon footprint and close to 40% of the energy consumption. In India, it's slightly less because we have, let's say, a lot of industries that consume quite a bit of energy and emit carbon. Take it at 30% plus in India, which is already a lot. So that's a very concrete example. Another one is around making energy supply greener. And India's take very bold bets. India is well known to take bold bets, and there is a bold bet towards more renewable generation in excess of 30%, which is a massive change in India, which will come with more renewable. And with more renewable, which is solar and wind, comes a bit more instability in the energy supply because the sun is not always shining or there is not always wind. And that drives for a better connection between the point of consumption and the point of supply, with, again, digital technology to connect the dots between the supply and demand. And these are, let's say, powerful software that actually are being deployed as we speak in India to manage that grid instability. So in a few words, that's what we see as the new electric world.
So, Sharad, Philip there has so beautifully set the context for what constitutes a new electric world. But what I'd love to understand from you is what role will data centers play in this whole equation? Can data centers bridge the gap and connect the dots between our existing energy infrastructure and the demands of the new data economy?
I couldn't agree with Philip more. We use several measures to make sure that we build a sustainable future. So those include from our building design, which is green buildings. For example, our Bangalore data center is a platinum rated green building. We also use renewable energy. So we've not only set up our own captive plants for a hybrid wind solar. As Philip mentioned, the sun only comes out for a certain number of hours a day, and we supplement that with wind. So you can get about 83% of our energy needs we can fulfill through solar, but we bridge that 17% gap using, or close to 17% gap using wind. In addition to that, by using technologies from partners like Schneider, we have improved the energy efficiency of all our data centers. So we have the industry leading energy efficiencies, not only in India, but also NTT as a group runs some of the most energy efficient data centers in the world. So all these factors, basically contribute to making the future more sustainable. And add to that, rapid digital transformation that we're seeing, obviously accelerated by COVID, but even otherwise with the move to the cloud, because what happens with cloud is you're packing in more density in a smaller footprint, right? And that again improves energy efficiency because you're able to service more with less. And this is much more efficient than third-party. A third-party data center is much more efficient than people setting up their own small data centers, because then they can't get the kind of energy efficiency that we could get as a third-party player because of the sheer scale of our operation. So I think all these factors will contribute in inventing the new electric world as far as data centers go.
Tapan, I'd love to bring you in here. Now, Sharad touched on sustainability, and I believe that ITC is clearly leading by example in that regard with its green building in Bangalore. But if we were to look at the challenges for a moment, what sort of obstacles did you encounter in the context of the design of that building, from perhaps a technology standpoint, from the economics of it all, and ultimately an execution standpoint?
So when it came to our building design, which is at 23 lakh square feet, almost in the heart of Bangalore, in the thick of residential space, we were redeveloping one of our old campuses. First thing that we kept in mind is to contextualize this electric world. So first thing we learned is that you cannot make a building efficient if you are not harping on saving the energy right at the consumer stage. And that cannot be done by any electric or mechanical means. It has to be done by architecture. So in designing of a building, as well as formulating it and then taking it forward through different consultants throughout the lifespan of the construction of 6 years, you have to be very clear about the fundamentals, what you want. It is about contextualizing the whole modernity, as we call, and then sort of implementing it, internalizing it, and doing it at every stage of design, whether you have achieved what you intended to achieve. And if you have not achieved, like we had an energy parameter of 90 kilowatt hour per meter square per annum. So at every stage of design that was checked whether we achieved that. If we did not achieve that, go back to the drawing board, achieve this, and again come back. So today we are consuming less than 75 kilowatt hour per meter square per annum. I'm saying pre-COVID when the building was occupied. Now, of course, it has gone down. This is one context. And second, in any large complex like this, you should be aware that there is part loading that will happen. Building will never be fully occupied at one go. So every equipment that we have designed or we have purchased are capable of high performance under part load. So as we call life cycle costing, that means how will this equipment be costing in 7 years' time? Not the first cost of the equipment, but its overall cost under various load conditions, what it will generate. So these two aspects have given us a good handle on actual energy consumption that is happening today now that we are operating the building for about 2 years. So when you see that your building is performing better than the design performance, designed objectives, you know that yes, something was done right. And of course, the maintenance team who are doing, they are also trying to optimize on that year on year.
So, Anil, each of the panelists before you have set an additional layer of context for what constitutes a new electric world. I'd love to understand yours, but more specifically, as we aim to become a more Atmanirbhar Bharat, a more self-reliant India, are these models of clean energy consumption the solution? What does the data indicate? What does the science indicate in your view?
But I'll say if we look the recent direction given by the present leadership, what comes out very strongly is that energy security is the core of a self-reliant and Atmanirbhar Bharat. And rightly so, because as Philip said, we all know that the infrastructure which India as a developed nation has to develop for the next 20 years, 30 years, which is still almost 60-70% of that is still to be developed, including the electrical grids and all those buildings which will contribute to this strong equation of sustainability, energy efficiency by bringing electricity and digital together. And if we look at the present times when India has faced the challenges of COVID, I think it comes out for a society, first the digitization, speed with which India has adopted digitization has been enormous. We could never imagine that we can, within 6 months, we can have the digitization penetration in India so fast. At the same time, electricity has made this digitization networks work to remain the country operating, to remain the supply chains operating, and remain all of us to continue making our essential things coming and being operating at an efficiency as we want. Now, when we look India, I think Philip said the context, because the sustainable and new electric world, you need a very strong mix of renewable and energy efficiency to be met. When we're talking of today, with the mission which India has to set up now, which is already upgraded to 220 plus gigawatt of renewable to be installed by 2022, and then 2030 mission is even larger of 450 gigawatts of renewable to be installed. The mix by 2030 will be also very responsible, where fossil fuel will be around 40% and renewable will be 60%. This is a very strong commitment of India to a self-reliant, Atmanirbhar, self-reliant India, as well as to the world, that how we are contributing to our commitments on climate change. So this is what our technology, this is what our contribution to the story of India is, and we are committed. Recently, we have made a very strong statement by acquiring L&T's electrical automation business, which is now part of Schneider Electric. We believe in story of the India. We believe in growth potential of India, and we want to contribute state-of-the-art digital solutions to make dream of India to be a self-reliant India at Atmanirbhar Bharat much faster by bringing our technology to all customers and all the nation as such.
It's time for a short break, but our special feature, Schneider Electric presents Inventing the New Electric World, partnered by ET Now, will return on the other side. So don't go anywhere. And I believe that a new electric world will bring to bear several new age technology deployment models, business engagement models, and one such that surfaced in many industry conversations is the concept of microgrids. I would love your thoughts and how you weigh in on the issue.
So first of all, on the point of microgrid, in the context of India, there are probably different types of microgrids. There is one type of microgrid that would happen more in villages, in the rural area, where actually many people don't have good access to energy, and where people are looking for very cost-effective solutions that can be deployed in more rural contexts, and actually with the financing that comes with it. And here, the business model, so on that part, the technology do exist, and they are pretty we are efficient in Schneider, so we are shutting off the light from time to time. So those everywhere in the world. On this part, the technology do exist. What's missing in most of the case is the financing or putting in place the right logistics so that those technology would be available in those villages. And here we are partnering with a lot of NGOs, government entities. We're actually very glad to have L&T, ENA joining forces because these teams have a very good access to that part of India, and we believe there is a tremendous need here. Could be in hotel, like ITC hotels or university and so on, where you would look at, let's say, bigger sets of technology and bigger power delivery, because this would be places that would consume more energy, where here again the technology does exist but is a bit different. So here the point is about bringing together some solar and wind. I think some of the panelists were mentioning this, and connect with the different facility, could be a hotel, a hospital and so on, put in place from time to time storage, and be able to feed that facility or feed the grid back. So it does require quite some complex technology. And on that one, there is a point of business model, which is some of our customers are telling us, I want to buy that old CapEx. And some of our customers are telling us, you know what, I want to buy it as a service, as a monthly fee. And here, we provide the capacity to partner with a financial institution so that actually we would become somewhat an energy provider and really move the business model towards energy as a service.
Well, Sharad, bringing you in now, sort of honing in and doing a deeper dive on some of the points that Philip just made. What do you consider to be some of the India-specific challenges when it comes to transitioning to a new electric world, and perhaps some of the India-centric opportunities as well?
When we run data centers and we're trying to do this, build sustainable data centers, one of the biggest challenges we face in India is the overall, reliability of the power infrastructure. I think it is pretty good in Mumbai, not the October 12th outage notwithstanding. Mumbai's power uptime has been amongst the best in the world. But in other cities, we operate data centers in multiple cities, and in other cities, we lose power at least once a week, if not more, for maybe a couple of hours. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face. And when it comes to sustainability, I think the government has given us good incentives. So it actually makes business sense to be more sustainable. But I think the challenge mainly is on two sides. One is the power infrastructure in general, and the other challenge that we face is also some of the regulations, right? When you set up these plants, so sometimes the regulations change. Like for example, whether you can bank energy or not, and sometimes each state has its own nuances. And therefore, those are some of the things I think will get streamlined over a period of time. But I think the overall opportunity is there to make it more sustainable.
Now, Tapan, given that Sharad has outlined some of the bottlenecks, have you also experienced them in your own context? And if we were to look at this green building in Bangalore, how has it alleviated some of these bottlenecks? What are some of the benefits that have come to bear?
But on this building, on its roof, we have got about 380 kilowatt peak of solar power, and we harness wind power to this building through grid to use in the building, which is called wheeling. So the wheeling process, we use wind and solar power to run this building. So practically most of the year, except for the time when wind goes a little low because of natural reasons, this building practically runs on sustainable energy as such. So though its power requirement on paper is about 7 megawatt peak with respect to its size of 23 lakh square feet, we have not gone there. So we have been within 4.5 or so all this while because of various reasons, because of efficiencies, and of course because of peak occupancy is not yet happened. So if you talk about using such microgrid, so this solar that is there on the roof is connected to the grid of the building. It is not for anything particular, but it is also as one of the supply sources. What Mr. Anil told that everything is a source. In the building, if you are saving power or generating power, both are sources in addition to the government source that comes to us. So these three things together, the diesel engine, which is a backup, government's power, solar, these are all part of a grid which has been formed in this building, and they kind of switch over to each other depending upon the time.
Taking a cue from what Tapan has just said, I believe customers ultimately care most about two things, and that's affordability and accessibility. So as we transition towards the new electric world, how do we strike just the right balance between the two?
The accessibility and affordability also is very much entrenched in our mission, where we believe that access to energy and now more and more efficient and digital energy are fundamentals of a sustainable world for future. And as part of this mission, it's not only that we are becoming partner for our customers like Sharad or like Tapan who are using our technology to curtail sustainability and efficiency. We are going to the bottom of the pyramid. That's where you need real accessibility to create a sustainable living for those people who probably are constrained to use the fuel, which probably create more climate challenges. So our effort as a company, our mission has been providing access to energy to all the people, and especially in the rural part of the country. And there, to while we continue working with our digital solution to provide sustainable and efficient solution for data centers or buildings, or for that matter grids, or that matter all our customers in the commercial buildings and all, and that's what we do. But to help a larger impact, we have started the mission of training youth as part of our Tomorrow Rising Fund, which was launched by our chairman, to train the youth in the electrical trade, so that in the rural India as well, they can continue implementing those solutions, more and more renewable, more and more microgrid. They be part of those solutions. The objective is that, and this is lined with our mission, that accessible energy, and that too from renewable, microgrid, sustainable energy, helps create a sustainable future for us.
Philip, what do you believe everyday citizens can do on a daily basis in the march towards making their environment, their ecosystem more electric and so-called enter this new electric world?
I think we all make a difference as consumers. And what's interesting to see that now consumers, and maybe the younger generation is more impatient, and that's great. Look at Greta Thunberg and others, but she's probably a source of inspiration for many. These people are pushing companies, politicians to drive changes. The opportunity we have in front of us is to drive as fast as we can massive adoption. So people have a say when they vote. People have a say when they consume. People have a say when they are part of companies. And we see more and more of our employees saying, we are really proud to work at Schneider because we love the mission of that company, and we want to stay in this company because we believe we do good. So I think as individuals, we have more power than what we think, as voters, consumers, employees, and of course, on our everyday life, there are small things we can do. You can switch on the light, you can be more conscious with air conditioning, more conscious in your choice of transportation. In that context, it can be very different country by country, but these are a couple nuggets or tips that I would like to share of things that can make tomorrow better tomorrow.
All right. With that, our special feature, Schneider Electric presents Inventing the New Electric World, partnered by ET Now, comes to a close. I trust that this very illustrious panel has done justice to the topic and answered any ambiguities you may have as we transition towards a more energy efficient future. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.